So this is going to be kind of an informal thing. I've never done a reading vlog before, but I did that video where I asked which book you said I should read, and you guys picked Cinder by a very, very, very large majority. So I'm going to be trying to read this book. The only thing I know about it is that it is a science fiction Cinderella retelling. I've heard that it's sweet and easy to read. I've also heard the audiobook is good, but I've got the physical book. I'm going to be taking advantage of this. So without spending too much time on it, I'm going to try to make a vlog of my reading of this one. Okay, so I just finished chapter 1 and thought I would give my quick initial thoughts. So Cinderella is a cyborg in this book, and it seems like she has a robot foot, which I'm assuming is going to be part of the glass slipper robot foot kind of thing. She's a mechanic, which is kind of interesting. And the part that I mostly wanted to talk about was evidently there's a plague going around. Some people are searching for an antidote, and also somebody gets it in the street and they freak out. It's kind of set up for the plague. Timely. Okay, so I've read up through chapter 5, and I now know kind of some of the elements of the retelling. So we've got the bad stepmother, we've got the stepsisters in this story. It looks like there's a bad stepsister and a good stepsister. And we see some more development with the world, and we see some more development with the plague that's going around, the epidemic that seems to be affecting the kingdom. Once again, I did not expect this to have like that element of a disease spreading everywhere. If you're planning on reading this series and you think that's going to trigger you right now, I guess that's worth knowing. But yeah, I kind of like the vibe that's going on. They have, I'm really stupid, and I just, you know, they call it the Lunar Chronicles, but I didn't really think about, oh yeah, like that means that there's stuff having to do with the moon. So like they indicated that there's a colony on the moon where people live, and there's like an evil queen from there, and she might be trying to manipulate the people on Earth to get something out of a marriage. That's all pretty cool, and I'm curious to see where that goes. Also, my daughter made me this bookmark. I mentioned that before. She makes me bookmarks. I don't know where the last one went. I don't think I lost it. My daughter is pretty good about taking bookmarks out of my books and displacing them for various things. And so she made me a new one for this one. I've actually got to bounce early from this. My wife asked me for some help upstairs. So I'll see you guys later. Hey, another day, another segment for this reading vlog. So, I am over halfway done now, and the plot is kind of starting to take some turns. And I'm wearing like regular clothes today. I never do in the video. Look at this. Jammy pants. What's the point dressing up if you can work from home, is what I say. No. If you can work from home, what's the point in dressing up? That's what I mean. So we are getting some interesting stuff in this book now. But before I kind of go over what I'm thinking about the plot, I have a question. So I've read a lot of books recently, and probably just by the nature of the ones that I've chosen, not intentionally, a lot of them, the majority of them were written by male authors. So I know this is a young adult book, and maybe this plays into some of this question I'm going to ask. But this book is a Cinderella retelling, and the main character is named Cinder, and she presumably is going to fall in love with the Prince Kai in the book. Now, when she sees Prince Kai, she like swoons over him immediately and is just like, she sees him, he's super attractive, she like melts, she can't think, she's distracted constantly by her thoughts with this guy. Now, when I have seen instances of a male writing a female POV character who does things like this, I always kind of just assumed that was a little bit of like wish fulfillment or like fantasy type writing. Like you want to write a male character that the male reader identifies with, and the girl is obsessed with this guy, and the guy wants the girl to be obsessed with him. I've seen instances of ladies criticizing when males write female characters like this. Now, I know that this is a young adult book, so it's appealing to teenagers, and this might be way more common in teenage writing and this style of writing. I don't know that much about female psychology, female attraction to men. I've never been there myself. Like, is this like a real thing? Is this just only in like young adult romantic descriptions? Like, I don't read romance books either. Like, is it common for a woman in a story to just obsess over a man in this way? Like, I know what men are like when they are really attracted to a woman and how they think about that. But I have just kind of trained in my mind to think when I see a female character being portrayed this way as that just being completely unrealistic and it being a male fantasy type thing. But now I'm wondering if it's not, and maybe it's the nuances are just wrong sometimes when I see the male authors do it. Or maybe it's just there are certain females that will read a female being portrayed one way and really have it not identify with them, and so then they just reject it entirely because they're not like that. Like, guys can do that with guy books too. I don't know. I want to know if, like, is that normal for ladies to be able to portray ladies as just obsessing over a guy the way that like Cinder kind of does over the prince here? She clearly has a lot of important value outside of the guy. It's not like she's depending on it, but I want to know. Now, jumping into what I think of the plot so far. So I mentioned that there was this virus and they're looking for a cure. We've got the Cinderella story with Cinder and her stepsisters and her mom. And the stories have kind of changed a little bit now to where we know of like a more grander overarching plot that's happening with the lunar colony. It's implied pretty early on that they want to take over Earth, either by force or maybe by some other method. There's rumors early on that maybe someone in the lunar colony is trying to get the prince to marry so that there would be some kind of diplomacy there, but the prince doesn't want to marry someone from the moon. Also, like, in this book, people from the moon have magic powers where they can like create illusions of themselves so that they have like, they're alluring, like they can mind control a little bit, and they can also make themselves look more attractive or like differently than they normally do, but it doesn't show up in mirrors. So like that's the kind of weird soft magic system that we have so far. Which, now I'm thinking about it, I kind of thought that this was entirely going to resolve here, but if it's called the Lunar Chronicles, I don't know if these are standalone, but now I'm kind of thinking maybe they're not standalone. And now I'm thinking maybe this actually will be a plot of the whole thing. But then that makes me wonder the question, like, assuming Cinder doesn't die in this book, will she be in the other books? Like, is this a series where like the main characters, each book is named after a different new person, I assume, based on the covers? Is Cinder a repeating character throughout the rest of the books, assuming she doesn't die here? I don't know. That's kind of like, I like that more. Like, if we're going to start the book and learn about this character, I would like her to become a main character through the rest of the series as well. She's a cool character. I like her skill set and the things that they're building up for like what she's capable of, her backstory. I'm starting to like get little hints of that. Parts of the story have been a little bit predictable. So at the very beginning of the book, like one of the first scenes, the prince shows up and he's like, hey, I have this droid, and Android specifically, screw you Apple, I have this droid and she's got super important data. And she's like, what? And she's like, no, not super important data, but it might be super important data on it. And then she kind of forgets about it, and then now they're getting back to that, oh yeah, maybe we should deal with that thing with the super important data. It might actually be, the solution to the entire puzzle. So yeah, we're finally getting back to addressing that now. I was thinking they might try to save that until the end. I'm glad they didn't. But now at the 50% mark, usually the 50% mark of a book, you'll see the pace start to speed up and something's starting to happen again. And the thing that we're seeing now is protagonist making a potentially dangerous decision, not completely stupid. So sometimes when I get mad at books, it's when the characters are complete morons. The person is making a maybe unwise decision, but there's some logic behind it. So I can follow that, especially with the younger protagonist. Like, there's a reason that she's doing the dangerous, dumb thing that she's trying to do. We'll see how that pans out. Before I drop out of this section of the vlog, I wanted to mention one weird technical issue as someone that works in tech that I thought was weird. So the Cinder is trying to deal with restoring the functionality of the prince's broken android device. Computer girl, I don't know. Like it's like a sentient being, kind of sentient. I don't know. She says that there might be a virus, something might be wrong with the software, and the way to resolve that would be to completely reinstall the software, which would wipe the hard drive and completely wipe the personality that the droid has developed. That makes sense. But then in the next paragraph, they describe that process as rebooting, and that's like rebooting and reformatting are not the same thing. Rebooting is something that we do with technology all the time. So then you have to wonder, and this is just me overanalyzing, like, it kind of implies that everything is stored on hard disk drives, which don't need power to retain their data. But if a reboot would cause the data to be lost. But the thing is that the thing has been broken for like 12 days. Clearly a reboot, or clearly power is not required for the data to remain on this device. I'm sorry, I'm just overanalyzing it. I'll catch up with you guys once I read some more. I did it. I finished Cinder, book 1 of the Lunar Chronicles, and it was a lot of fun. Before I get into like summary thoughts of the whole thing, I will say that that last scene there, well, one of the last scenes, the ball scene, gave me strong Princess Diaries impressions, which I love the movie Princess Diaries. That's like been, you know, one of my favorite cutesy, you know, sweet little romance movies since I was a young lad. But this was really cool. I like the way that they, you know, the parts of the fairy tale that they twisted to get where they did. I talked about earlier that one segment of, you know, whether girls would swoon over people. Like I talked about that segment there. I realized that that's just the trope, not in its entirety. Like you can have the person swooning and not be this way. But I realized that this was just doing the trope of insta-love. That's what it was. And I haven't read a ton of young adult series. Basically at the point I can think of, like recently, I've only read Scythe and the Children of Blood and Bone 2 books. And in the Children of Blood and Bone books, I was really angry at the way they did the insta-love trope. But then I realized that like it was more than just that it was insta-love. It was also insta-love from enemies to lovers in like, it was just a ridiculous time frame. This also too was a little bit insta-lovey, but it worked. It was fun. It was sweet, a little corny. It was a lot corny. The book has a lot of corny things in it. It has a lot of predictable things in it, but it's a fun journey. With the way things ended up, I think that there's a lot of potential for the series to move forward. I read some of the stuff, like the extra bonus materials in the back, and found out that, yeah, the characters are going to continue later on in the series. There'll be reoccurring characters as well as new stories for the new protagonists, the fairy tale retellings for each of the other books. I've already looked up purchasing the rest of the series. I haven't done it yet, but yeah, I liked this in a way that was different than I expected to, because, yeah, if you go back and watch my young adult romance video, I was sort of playing with the fact, especially with Twilight, where like I was going to read this and this might be fun because if I really dislike it, or I might be able to play up an angle at it, but it really just was kind of a sweet, fun story. I was into the like cute little romance. The twists were not incredibly surprising, but they were fun. There's cool potential implementations for the magic. It's like a low fantasy / sci-fi thing. It's not technically magic, but it's basically magic. Like I like the implementation of that and where that could go in the future. They teased a character who I'm guessing just by looking at the covers is one of the main protagonists for the 3rd book. And it looks like the next book is supposed to be about like a Little Red Riding Hood retelling. But yeah, I guess I don't know what else to say. I like the world they created. I like the story that was told. I thought that it was a cute and sweet and fun story. There was things in it that were a lot darker than I would normally associate with a cute, fun fairy tale type story. And there was like a death of a main character I didn't really expect. It was really good and really fun, and I'm glad that I read it. So thank you to every one of you that was one of the people that strongly suggested this, because this book won by far on which one I should read. I've already answered the question on whether I want to continue on reading it. Yes. I don't know when, but yeah, definitely. This is going to be like, and somebody maybe has suggested this to me before, this is going to be a great palate cleanser between like huge or heavy reads. This one's super fun. So would I recommend reading it? Yeah. If you are looking for something like the way I've described this, you should definitely pick it up. Is it corny? Yes. Is it cheesy and fluffy? Very fairy tale-esque? Yes, I think it was supposed to be, and it fulfills that. But it also is like more than that. It has cool sci-fi elements. It has a cool main character who I think is going to be interesting to see how she continues to progress even throughout the other books. Has an interesting world and political situation. Yeah, it's pretty basic, but totally and thoroughly pleasant. Not for the characters. It sucks for the characters, but it's pleasant for the reader. Oh, and real quick, while I was getting this video ready to go, I went to the Goodreads page to mark it as read and give it my review. I hope the audio sounds okay. And I saw that there's a trailer for this book. It is one of the like most corny, cheesy, like 2000s things I've seen in a long time, and it made my heart happy. It's not a good trailer, but it was good for me, and I recommend you go check it out. Thank you guys so much for watching my first attempt at a reading vlog. Is this something that you would like to see from me in the future? Is there like suggestions that I could do for making this more interesting? I don't know. I watch reading vlogs, but I've never made one. But they seem to be something that people enjoy watching. So would you enjoy watching more reading vlogs from me in the future? I kind of had the idea that if this would do well, I might try the other young adult books that I had suggested, or maybe some other book. I don't know. I like to read a lot of books. If you've been on my channel, you know that. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. I love you all. If you want to see more of my content, please remember to subscribe if you aren't already. Hit the like button if you like the video. What are your thoughts on the series if you've read it? If you have any questions on whether you should read the series or not, ask me down below. I'm willing to answer anything. I hope everyone is staying safe and sane in the period that we're in. Until next time, have a good one.
No one ever get enough. Always looking out tired, sleep. No one ever get enough. If I don't show up, I might get fired. Sleep. No one ever get enough. Always looking out tired, sleep. No one ever get enough. If I don't show up, I might get fired.